Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Tachless show with Kira Tchernikovsky. Today, we talk about my perfectly beloved topic, and that's sales and marketing alignment. And I've invited Lisa. I feel she's my friend. We know each other for half a year at least, right? Through the community. And I'm amazed on how she does things. So, Lisa, can you walk me through what you have recently done with the marketing department and how you aligned what you do to the business goal of the company itself?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a lengthy process, but I'll try to talk you through it kind of backwards. So,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing I need to understand is the business objectives and get a baseline of where we're at to where we stand for those things. So, when I came in here, we had really huge growth goals. We were kind of barely getting by to hit our existing goals. And what we didn't have defined clearly was our total addressable market, who our real ICP was, our ideal customer profile. What does that look like? Who should we really be going after? We were kind of going after anyone who would buy from us. And what we were starting to see was a lot of attrition. So the first thing I did was spent some time with the customer success team, really looking at which accounts are attriting and digging into the data. So on the sales side, 59% of our new business was small tech, under 1,000 employees. And on the attrition side, 85% of the companies that were attriting were small tech with less than 1,000 employees. So,
At least
this
that
was kind
fits.
of, yeah, it's like, okay, aha. So we're not really going after the right accounts. And then we started to look at what do our best accounts look like with the highest ACV, who are sticking with us, who are growing and expanding. And so then we started looking at creating new ideal customer profile categories from that. And that I had to make some adjustments. We had to then look at, well, how those deals take longer to close if they have more employees. If it's between 1,000 and 10,000, it's usually a 4-month cycle versus the less than 1,000 was around a 2-month cycle. And then when we got into over 10,000, it was around a 7-month cycle. And so, yeah, there's some things we can do to hopefully shorten those times, but we also need to be realistic in that if we change the accounts that we're going after, it's going to change some other things. It's also going to create higher ACV and less turnover. So, really needed to understand the business model and what was happening within the business before starting to create the marketing plan. And I think, that's a mistake that, I've made before too, but it's also a big part of the reason why I got into marketing leadership. Because so I started in graphic design and everyone's always asking for these little changes, like make the logo bigger, or change this font or color or something. And I'm like, it's so subjective. What's the business
Mm-hmm.
purpose? What are you trying to accomplish? Like, I just get really frustrated with these nitpicky, subjective changes. And so over time, I've just spent more and done more and more work to get aligned with the business objectives. And it usually serves me really well to start there, because then I can justify the reasons behind what we're doing. And marketing is less of an arts and crafts department and becomes more of a true partner to sales and to revenue and to the leadership in the company and to achieving our business goals. So that's where I
Yeah,
start.
yeah, that's amazing, and that's a great analogy, I think, with the graphic design. And in your organization, did the position of marketing change with this process that you went through?
Yes, but I was hired for that reason. So they
Uh-huh.
knew they needed to make change. When I was interviewing, I was talking about moving to an account-based marketing model because we're in B2B tech and we know that B2B companies buy with buying committees. There's usually 8 to 10 people in a decision So they knew they needed to make those changes. They also weren't using any sort of intent data or predictive analytics. So I was describing that as like you're flying blind and your competitors aren't. People are starting, and I was, looking at what, like, go on to Built With, see what their competitors are using in their tech stacks. I'm like, two of your top 3 competitors are already using intent data for sure. I can see it right here. So they have a leg up on you. They're getting an advantage because they can see what's happening in what I call the dark funnel, because that's where people are doing their Google searches and maybe coming to your website without filling out a form. They haven't raised their hand yet, but they're showing signals that they're in market, but you can't see them. So like, we need to get ahead of that, not be waiting for the last minute when they're finally done with, as much of their research that they can do without talking to you. And, in the 11th hour, trying to have a conversation with them and sway them. So that was a big part of why I was brought on. After I had figured out kind of the baseline for, not only our TAM and our ICP, but also looking at our conversion rates so that I had some sort of a baseline to say, this is what the jumping off point is. Then we started putting the new technology and new processes into place.
Yeah, how did you manage the buy-in process? Because I don't know any CEO who wouldn't say, like, you want to change things, like, when will we see more revenues or more leads that are converting? And looks like you had to have some waiting period, I would say.
Yeah. Well, a couple things. Fortunately for me, I've done it a couple times, so I had an idea of how long it was going to take. And I set expectations up front, saying, first, I need to get the baseline. And I didn't know for sure how long that would take. But I said, while we're getting that figured out, we can, start looking at the technology that we'd want to bring in, do the demos, start getting Sandbox set up, like figure out how we're going to do this. And kind of set the timeline. The earliest that we would be able to get this all turned on would be January. And that I started in the last week of August. So it was basically 4 months, September, October, November, December, to do all of that work, get everything turned on, get everything figured out, get everything set up. And on top of that, I said, the end of our fiscal year was January 31st. So I said, we can start doing training in January, but I know how AEs are. It's the end of their fiscal year. They're going to be heads down closing deals. So we can start enablement, we can start training, I can turn on some campaigns, but we're not going to really get this in motion until February, March.
So now it's your like star moment.
Yeah. And the rubber is hitting the road. We are in the trenches like every single day, looking at which AEs, aren't getting it, basically, is what it comes down to. And hand holding, it's walking them through, how do you look at this differently? How do you start your day? How do you need to change your motion? We created a prioritization dashboard for them. We're serving up the hottest accounts that are showing the most intent in our predictive model and meet the ideal customer profile for them. And we're saying, you guys work these other accounts that are in an awareness or in a consideration stage. Those accounts, marketing is going to warm up for you. We're going to move them over into this category. So I don't even look at marketing qualified leads, MQL, the same anymore. I'm saying, I'm not waiting for them to sign fill out a form. Half the time, I call those Mickey Mouse leads anyway. Like, they're faking their name. It's like Mickey Mouse at Disney.com. They don't really want to talk to you. They just want the content. And by then, it's also a lot of times it's too late, right? Because they've already done a ton of research and they've figured out most of what they need to figure out. And it's really hard to change their mind on things. So I'm looking at their intent scores and using predictive modeling to determine kind of which stage they're in. And when they move into what I call the sweet spot for the sales team to start reaching out, we've got a system now where the BDRs and AEs are tag teaming kind of who does what, but we start reaching out. So it's just we're in the trenches changing this because, some people, and including myself, I mean, I've been in this business for a long time. It takes time to like get your head around it, change your actions. You've been doing something for 10, 15, 20 years a certain way, all of a sudden waking up in the morning and doing it completely differently is hard. So that's where we're at right now, is working on changing it.
Who your ideal customer is and collecting the data, which teams you worked with. And
Okay.
I assume that when you built up the new ways of working, there were other teams involved, not the same as in mapping out the information.
Yeah, and there was some overlap. So the first part, again, worked with sales ops at first, but then went to customer success, right? Because who's attriting was very important to understand in who is our true ideal customer. And eventually I'll start working with customer success again, because we're going to want to be looking at cross-sell and upsell opportunities. But for right now, and kind of getting this flywheel going with this new account-based approach, it's all hands on deck for the sales team specifically. The BDRs report under me. I just hired a new director who starts Monday, so I'm super excited about that. But the BDRs needed to make changes and get trained. The AEs needed to get trained and make changes. But the people that I worked the closest with was the CRO and the RVPs, because I needed their buy-in. I needed this to start from the top down. And they've been great. Without that, I've done this before without that. And what I've had to do in that case is just marketing totally lead, go out ahead, start to show some success, start to get some results, find a couple champions on the sales side to help you, and then build kind of your own internal case study, a success story out of it. And when people start to see how much easier it is, how much more efficient it is, how much, better quality leads they're getting, faster, higher conversion rates, they're much more likely to jump in. But here, because that was kind of the mandate when I came in, and I started building the relationships with the RVPs right away. We started talking about the things that were important to them that they thought needed to change. And I started kind of showing them other people's successes and explaining how it worked, and showing them results from other places I've worked, or showing them success stories from other companies that I know have done this. They were bought in. So having their buy-in has been totally essential to making this go as fast as we are right now.
Yeah, that's super critical. And then how is the structure, organizational structure, built at your company? If BDRs report to you, how is that built? So you have the CRO, but whom sales report to, and marketing?
Yeah, so the CRO has pretty much sales. So sales ops reports to the CRO, the AEs, the RVPs. I've seen some places where like customer success would also report to the CRO. Oh, solution consultants are also reporting to the CRO, and so does sales enablement.
Oh, wow.
Here, customer success is not reporting to the CRO right now. I don't know if that will change. Again, I start to look at things much more holistically, as far as this whole entire customer life cycle. So I think in the future, we'll probably get to a state like that, but we're just not there yet. On my side, I've got, product marketing is under marketing, but it does not report to me. But that's something that I work very, very closely with. And we're working on some rebranding and messaging right now. And it's all product marketing and brand. The brand team, the creative team, the social PR, website are all on my team. I've got someone who I brought in who's leading the ABM program, but she's eventually, I mean, her role will be the entire customer life cycle and our content strategy. I've got field marketing under me, which is something I plan to build out because I want our field marketers to, I want each region to have field marketing representation. So right now we're working on growing that, digital marketing, content marketing, and
wow.
Oh, so the second hire I made was marketing operations, which has been critical to getting all the tech built, the dashboards built, having a baseline, having models. And then the BDR team, which I've seen reporting to sales or to marketing. I personally find it more effective when it's reporting to marketing. And the biggest reason is I see that group as being this linchpin between sales and marketing. And there has to be a smooth handoff, right? It's almost like you're kind of passing the baton on this account. And with if it's very lopsided and it's just like a throwing over the fence, I feel like it just doesn't work nearly as well as when there's a really nice clean handoff. And that BDR team is that group that makes it happen. So I like having the BDR team over on the marketing side.
Cool. You are queen of analogies. You explained very clearly.
It helps me. It helps me make things more simple.
Yeah, I guess that's how you get the buy-in as well. So can you briefly describe, if not your full tech stack, but those 3 to 5 tools that you find the most helpful?
Yeah, I mean, our tech stack's not that robust. The technology that we brought in was 6 Sense, and that is our account-based marketing program, and it has intent data and predictive analytics as part of it. I know some places kind of piece all of those things together. Terminus is another great platform for that. They just bought their own predictive modeling tech to weave into it now. So, you know, I think they're going to start to really be able to do it all in one.
Yeah.
As well here. And, you know, they have a built-in chat bot and some other things that 6 Sense doesn't have. I'm actually looking to add on a chat bot right now. So we don't have that yet, but that's another channel that I want to add. We had Hushly when I came in. I've used Uberflip other places. There's Path Factory, there's I think it's Flows. So there's other ones like it, but the idea is being able to spin up really quick landing pages, having content being served up based on what people are looking for. So I can plug in the intent data and the predictive into a technology like that and make it a dynamic experience, which is, you know, really cool. And then right now we're using Marketo and Salesforce and Outreach. So Marketo for the marketing emails, but the outreach component is really important to have plugged in. And I've used SalesLoft before too. But one way or another, I want to be able to have a single source of truth. And so in my iframe in Salesforce, where the 6 Sense data is coming in, I can now see all of the emails that go out from Marketo, all of the campaigns that an account is in 6 Sense, and all of the sales activity if they're doing it in outreach. So if they're not doing it or they're not documenting it, it looks like the account hasn't been contacted. We also have a flag that goes off for that because, again, I'm like, there is a sweet spot that we've identified, and I feel very strongly if you're not hitting people at the right time in their buying decision, your chances of winning go down. So Now we're really focused on the sweet spot, making sure we're doing the right outreach at the right time.
Wow, you've built something amazing, like really what people could dream of, I guess. I hope
Well, we're
that we
getting
will.
there,
Yeah,
but
no, that
it's
sounds
coming
perfect.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and those dashboards that you work with BDRs or AMs on, is that in Salesforce or there is another visualization tool?
Yeah. The dashboards are all built in Salesforce. I mean, I know that our sales ops team use like Insight Square and some other things, but personally, like I would love to get away from that. I just want to have one single source of
One
truth.
single.
And I know they're starting to build more stuff now in Salesforce, now that they're seeing the marketing, now that my marketing ops guy's in and he's building all these great dashboards in Salesforce. I think it's kind of setting the new standard.
Amazing. Sounds like. Um, so you have built the process that you are starting to not even test, but launching and improving now. How important are people in this process? Because it sounds like a part of maybe sales component when sales start reaching out to people, everything works like a well-oiled machine. How important are people
I
in
mean,
these
it does, but
processes?
it's all about the people, right? And then we
Mm-hmm.
talked about even and the sales enablement too, right? Having the right training, continual training. I mean, I'm working with our sales enablement team to continue to build out more training. And what now, once you get like the basics done, what else can you glean from this? Like this week, we started looking at existing deals, and you can use the intent data and the predictive in those cases too, where
Mm-hmm.
we can see, oh, they just started searching for a competitor, or
Wow.
oh, they just started, yeah, like, oh, this deal's now at risk, right? Where you might
Uh-huh.
not have known that before. So that might then spark for them, okay, now I'm going to go do a quick training on our differentiators between us and this competitor. I want to make sure, I've got my story down tight, and I'm going to set up a call with them so that I can kind of just mitigate anything that might come up if they're talking to that competitor, right? So, it's ongoing. I call it everboarding. I mean, I'm working for a sales enablement company. So, I'm like, you've got to keep training. You can't just come in, hot out of the gates the first 2 weeks, train people to do something a certain way, and then expect them to, retain it or get better at it. You've got to figure out each person's going to be better at certain things and not at other things. What is missing for that person and what do they need to get to the next level? So, but it is people, right? I mean, yes, the
Mm-hmm.
information's there, but you got to figure out how to use it. And you have to, really be smart, use your brain and think through, okay, if they did this and I know that, what can I do with that information? Because the information on its own is just going to sit there and it's worthless if you don't have people able to take the right action at the right time with it. So it's totally all about the people. People buy from people they like that has not changed. It's just that it's getting more complicated. I think the technology makes it easier to some extent, but again, you've got all this data now, it can be overwhelming. You have to kind of sort through it and use your own common sense to figure out what that means and what to do.
Yeah, that's amazing. Great answer. I love it. And I will ask you the last question because that's how I feel after talking to you on professional topics. Like, wow, I need to take it away, think, rethink, and distill something that I can personally use for my business or for clients I'm helping, because you always have that structured and you always bring that in the end when you have had the full picture and you tried out different things. And here are the building blocks that I think will work. And here you go, like you can use that. Amazing. What is the part that you love the most in what you do?
I think for me, I enjoy having a big problem to solve and figuring out how to solve it. And the journey to getting to it can sometimes be frustrating, but when I know I'm making progress, when I see other people like learning and growing and having aha moments themselves too on my team. And I know that we're all like in unison working towards the big picture. That is super rewarding for me. So I think that's my favorite part about it.
Awesome. I think your company is super lucky and your team is extremely lucky to have you. Now I think we can disclose where you are working. So shoot it.
Yep. So I'm the VP of marketing over at Mind to Goal, which is a sales enablement and what we're calling readiness company, but we're rebranding, so we might change it. So stay tuned. I'll let you know.
Are you changing the name?
I don't think we'll change the name, although it's a very interesting exercise. And when I first started interviewing, even I was like, it's a tough name. Like there's so many good things about it, and then there's some things about it that are like kind of raise a flag. But people remember it, and we've been around for 6 years. We have really great G2 ratings. Our customers love us. It's like, what would we change it to, and what would be the risk associated with changing it versus the reward? And I think we're starting to lean on the side that it's more risky and that we just need to have some fun with it and own it, and do some work on the branding part of it to make it a positive thing for us. So that's where I'm leaning.
You see, you have another big problem to solve.
Yeah, and I love branding problems. Those are my favorite. They're the most fun. So.
Yeah, amazing. I love this conversation. I guess I'll check in half a year to see how your process works, what the numbers are, and whether you have achieved that aggressive growth goal and what you have decided with the brand name. Thank you so much,
That'd be
Lisa.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
Thanks, Kira.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.